Ladies and gentlemen, this is the horror of World at War Zombies by Exceptional Gamer, absolute legend.
Well everybody, today
get
is
into
a
this.
special kind of zombies video, and since it is Halloween, I wanted to take a look at the more spookier side of COD Zombies. Because yes,
This
whilst
is
it
the only
definitely can
spooky
be
zombies
creepy at
game.
times, it is nowhere near as horror orientated as it used to be. And we're not just going to be
Absolutely.
looking back at a few COD Zombies games, we're going to be diving right into the heart of it and looking at the roots where zombies horror was at its finest, and this was the first
Still
zombies
is
game
that
I ever
scary,
played,
too.
as well as the first zombies mode ever made for any Call of Duty game. We're going
Yeah.
to be delving into what made World at War Zombies so scary.
dang
We'll be going
scary,
map
man.
by map, and it should be a pretty spooky experience just in time for Halloween. The zombies
I'm
community...
gonna be honest, a lot of this is due to the 2008 type of renders and the way society was back then that I just don't think we'll ever get to that same level of fear.
whilst
We
having
just
very
can't.
different opinions on zombies maps and all these weapons and what the best wonder weapon is, best perk, everyone, or at least the majority, can come together and say that World at War Zombies is hands down, no cap,
scariest
the
game.
scariest
Yeah,
zombies mode
without
we
a
have
doubt.
experienced to
Yeah,
date. And
without
I
a
remember
doubt.
playing this when I was younger, and it really is quite a spooky ride even today. I'm 19 now, and a lot of this stuff is still pretty ominous to me, but that's how good World at War Zombies really was. And I never usually say stuff like this at the beginning of a video, but I just want to say, if this kind of content is something you want to see more of, then please do give the video a like. If you
This game is really unique in that aspect that World at War Zombies is still to this day the scariest game, even more scary than the games they tried to make scary like World War II Zombies back in 2017, but
are enjoying
this
the video
one
because I like
holds
making
up
stuff like
over
this every
many
once
other
in a while,
games.
and it'd be a good
So
way to tell
unique
me
like
if
that.
you would want to see more of this kind of
is
content. But
so
anyways, with that
unbelievably
aside,
unique.
grab a nice hot drink, get all cozied up,
got
because
my
we're about
nice
to
cold
dive
water.
into the horrors of World at War Zombies.
Let's get it. Nacht, yes, the OG. I know, right from the spawn it gets you freaked out. As a 10-year-old kid playing this, bro, I was freaked.
Nacht der Untoten was the first zombies map that we were ever given. Now we're going to start with the cutscene, and the cutscene is very eerie and overall a great and effective way to convey to the player just how hopeless they really are. You can
And remember, people got to this point right at the end of the World at War campaign. And so to be here and to be like, oh, bro, did I die or whatnot is like such an ominous
see
feeling.
in the intro that you are in the middle of nowhere, and when you spawn into the map, if you look through the windows where the barriers are, you will see absolutely nothing.
Frickin'
No landmarks,
nothing.
no points of
The fog is really effective on Nacht to make it more scary. I feel like if there's no fog, people would not have the same
interest,
feeling.
just nothingness for
Yeah.
miles and miles,
That's
all
really what
clouded
Nacht
by
is.
fog, and that feeling of isolation will set in even more. This
Yeah.
feeling of desperation is something we will see in other World at War maps. Since you've
Really,
spawned in
yeah.
and looked out the windows,
I mean, Verruckt especially.
by now, I'm sure you'll see the decrepit-looking zombies slowly emerging from the fog, shambling
No.
and limping, stopping at nothing to get you. It's
funny how when we first started playing zombies, that was scary. But now, as you're playing zombies, like trying to get high rounds and whatnot, that is sort of seen as like a bad aspect of the map that it takes so long for the zombies to get inside the map.
always a creepy feeling,
really
and can I
interesting
just
how
quickly
that
say,
changes.
before even getting into any of this, even the main menu of World at War that you go to select zombies in is just a really spooky atmosphere. It's
Yeah.
one that sent shivers down my spine, and still does.
I know, just the music, man. You'll never get a COD as realistic as this game. This was like true fear of war type gaming. Crazy menu.
See what I mean? Now here's what I like about Nacht. It's pretty slow, and if you're just wanting to get into zombies, it can be a little boring, but if you're going in for the horror experience, and when I first played this, seeing those zombies take their time to come towards you, but they definitely will not be stopped, always used to really build suspense for me, like seeing them just slowly come in from all around, and the anticipation of when they would get there, it just helped make this feeling of...
Especially when you're not playing zombies a lot, or you're new to zombies, Nacht is such a great introduction because it was all of our introductions at one point.
Of danger you were in and that there was no way out. And since when I first played zombies back then in World at War, I didn't have many other maps to compare it to. It was nothing like it was now. In terms of the chills, it definitely gave me a run for my money at the time, but I do think that it is objectively just hard to disagree that the idea of these Nazi zombies coming towards you slowly but surely is just a very unnerving feeling. When you finish the campaign,
it really gives you that Silent Hill feeling where it's like you see these zombies coming out of the fog and like how they come out of these just extremely tight small windows, and also how Nacht is made off of a bunker off this area called Peleliu Island, which is just some random place in the middle of the world during World War II. So it's got a bunch of freaky aspects that tie in video gaming and real life.
Zombies was unlocked and Nacht was playable. And this just always used to creep me out when I was younger and on the main menu and everything, because it really made you feel like you uncovered some sort of dark secret within the game. And I just love that kind of attention to detail, whether that's a deliberate thing.
And it's partly realistic, which is what adds so much to it, in my opinion, as well.
Or not. I think this was actually because of zombies being a new concept at the time, and because it was so fun, Treyarch didn't want players going straight to zombies and not playing campaign or multiplayer, so they initially just left it as a little Easter egg first. I think it's just one of those really cool, creepy little secrets. But anyway, back to the map itself. You only spawn in with a 1911 pistol, and these zombies that are making their way towards you are only going to keep coming as the rounds progress, so you need to be scarce with your ammo. Or knife them on round 1 if you have that Sigma energy. One thing that always does freak me out about Nacht der Untoten is how
that's how you know you're in true fear.
the map is near silent, and the only other noises that you can really hear are the groans of the undead, and then the barriers behind you slowly being torn apart.
See, this is the thing. It was silent not because it was a lack of content, but because that was the ambience that it wanted to set. The silence actually adds to the map rather than detracting from it, which is like something you just really don't see, in my opinion, with current day Treyarch. Like, it's either there or it isn't nowadays. And the round change. Bro, I know, right? Like, as a new player, just like, what the frick is going on? Why am I hearing these random sounds? Just like the ambience as well. Like, it sounds like there's like ghosts in here.
Safe to say, it sets up an all hope is gone, there is no escape type of feel, and 100%. It really hammers it home with all of this stuff, amping up that spook scale. One thing that Nacht is known for is that there isn't much to help you either. Once you get past the help door, which is pretty chilling in and of itself due to how jagged the graffiti is, there's a mystery box there, but that's it. Here are some decent weapons.
And the hands just everywhere as well. And then also, it's funny because the best weapon in Nacht is the flamethrower. And that's like such just like a strange little callback to being like, bro, the best weapon is how you set them all on fire.
That aren't super strong and will become useless very soon. Survive. I also think that the drab, desaturated colours of Nacht, and also World at War as a whole, add to the grizzled and decaying atmosphere of this and other maps. It's run down and...
It really makes it feel like you got teleported to some random place and all you have is just random box of weapons to help you survive.
Broken structures really show that like this is completely destroyed like and abandoned, a ghost of its former self. And I think the fact that this place is so destroyed and so obliterated, making it hard to tell what the location you're actually at is, gives it this ambiguity which I just find interesting as well. I always found that the dog that would bark on the map used to throw me off guard a lot the first few times I would play. It was this dog barking noise. You couldn't actually see a dog, but you would hear it every, I think it was about round 5 to 7ish, which is conveniently roughly around the point where hellhounds would spawn on other zombies maps. Always used to put me in this state of thinking there was something out there, like there was something that was going to come into the map, and it wasn't the Hitler boss.
I know, right?
But
just like all those random noises, like that's what freaks you out. That's what makes you think. And I think those random noises literally help shape the actual lore of what this game was later going to be about in the next game, being Black Ops
Pretty
1.
good subtle teaser, whether this was deliberate or not, for Hellhounds nonetheless. And so,
Probably.
Nacht der Untoten, whilst being very
The
basic,
sound team is really what made original Zombies, and that's why I say Treyarch's sound team stays on top. Even in MW3, the sounds that they're putting in those games is just next level. They are probably the best gaming sound studio I've ever personally experienced.
gave us a real thrill ride for a first Zombies map. There's no denying it, this is one of the scariest Zombies maps ever because of just how
100%.
bare bones, mysterious, and decrepit everything
It's
is.
really like
Seeing
a
the zombies
Silent
come
Hill
in
Zombies
gives you the
map.
hopeless feel, and whilst other Zombies maps do nail this, I think that Nacht is one of the best examples of feeling like there is nothing you can do at all.
Like, Noct really feels like something out of a Resident Evil game as well. That's why it has that, like, genuine horror tie-in. It really doesn't feel like a Call of Duty product. Like, every single pause frame you can see of the zombies looks horrifying in Noct.
It just makes the zombies feel really scary. It
Yeah.
truly is the perfect place to cling to dear life with Nazi zombies coming for you. But there's
Yeah.
no way there can be a scarier map, right? Let alone the map straight after this
I
one.
don't
There's no
know
way it
about
can get
that.
even scarier, right?
Probably the
Right.
scariest
Very,
map.
very wrong. The next
Yeah.
map we are going to be looking at is
The scariest map there ever was. Still to this
Verruckt
day.
is arguably the most ominous and scariest map in all of Zombies history.
Yeah.
And for good reason. So this really starts with, once again, that isolated
Like, think about it. This is the first actual building map we have in Zombies, and it's a literal asylum. Like, they want you to be in a lockdown, crazy arena. That was what Round Base was. Confinement, you know? Being sort of locked in a sanatorium, literally.
feeling, but one of the smartest mechanics of Verruckt is that if you have brought friends along with you upon spawning into the map, you will spawn in different areas of the map,
That was
completely
also
segregated
freaky
and
at the
split
beginning.
into twos,
Yes,
and then
if you didn't know
separated
that
by a
too.
door, which can only be opened by turning on the power,
By
meaning that
beating the
before you
whole
get your
map.
perks and any decent weapons really, Verruckt forces you to split up when you are at your most vulnerable, and
Yeah.
this even now will make anyone feel way more insecure and
Such a great mechanic that I honestly wish they would have brought back into Zombies. They've only ever brought it back on one non-Treyarch Zombies map, being Carrier, and it just doesn't feel the same when you have exosuits. So, like, please, I would love for COD 2024 to bring back another Zombies map where they split the players off spawn. That is such a strong idea for COD Zombies.
vulnerable whilst playing this map. Verruckt doesn't aim to let you settle into a comfortable match of zombies. It tries its hardest to make you feel really uneasy and on edge. And believe me, it does succeed. Verruckt is set in an abandoned asylum in which Nazi scientists, or in the terms of story here, Group 935, were conducting horrific experiments on presumably its patients. And whilst this on its own is really creepy, the icing on this cake here, and something that never fails to give me chills and scare me completely shitless, are the screams of what we can only assume were these patients.
The victims. And the other thing is, like, there's like kids screaming, dog, and like women and all sorts of different people. There's like a dentist chair as well. So that's what makes it's really visceral. Like, it's actually real. Whereas, like, in these newer games, they try and sort of like tone down the horror. Like, they keep it PG-13. Nah, Verruckt had absolutely no chill, bro. Like, just listen to this. Bro's dead. Why is that near the showers as well?
They sound
criminal.
horrible, and there is
Criminal.
so much pain and desperation
Treyarch, how did you record those sounds? Literally.
in these screams. It really is chilling and plays into that ominous feeling that the map brings. You can even hear a baby very faintly crying if you go to these body
That's
lockers.
what I'm saying, bro. That's where it's like, bro, it's getting really morbid. Like, 2023 would never, bro. That's not right, man.
Another
Treyarch,
creepy
what's
Easter
going
egg on this map is that you can interact with this drill at the dentist chair. It is completely covered in blood, in fact the whole room is. Upon doing so, you will hear the drill make a really violent screech and a man scream in agony.
Probably the most iconic sound Easter egg. Like, a lot of people who play Verruckt know this Easter egg.
This one did not need to be in the map at
No.
all.
And
And
they put
this
it right
really
at spawn.
synergizes with the already bad feeling you have that something was and is terribly wrong here. You know, besides the Nazi zombies that are trying to kill you, it's safe to say the first time I
know, right?
experienced that,
It's
it
weird
put my
because usually zombies bite, right? And there's never an instance really in God Zombies where they actually bite you in game. It's always they slap you in this game. So in all honesty, it's pretty funny. Like, you can't really have horror in a COD Zombies game because of that one mechanic.
my brain in a
But it's
state of
hilarious.
terror. But Treyarch 100% knew what they were doing when they added these little Easter eggs around the
Exactly.
map. And one of the scariest things on Verruckt has to be the carnival music, which used to freak me out
I
so
know,
bad,
bro.
and still does to this very day. It's pretty hard to hear in game, but when you do, it really is awful. Especially keeping in mind that a lot of mentally ill patients were experimented on by Nazi scientists, and then there's just this seemingly innocent song, and it is so out of place. And over this, you can hear the screams of people in the map. Listening to it will give you a very haunting chill. I'll play it for you now.
I just don't like that. It's too freaky.
On the power switch,
Yeah, like,
there
I just don't like the way it, like, comes in and out, and, like...
is an arm
It's
just
just too
there on it.
freaky.
And story buffs will know that this is the mad lad Peter McCain's arm. This is a very subtle but effective indicator that you are not the first one to try and stay alive in this place.
Like, Zombies was so interesting, the fact that there were so little gameplay aspects that because they were slightly swapped, or, like, you could turn on power in one map, or you could see something, like, the lore really caught on with players, and that's why I think the story was so successful initially. But now they don't really do that type of stuff. Like, you have, like, a Warzone map now. How are you supposed to find Easter eggs in such a big map, you know?
The room literally next to this place is the room of what is presumed to be a mad scientist, littered with scribbles of someone who clearly has gone off
this
the
room
deep
is
end, as well as a
freaky.
butcher's table with blood
a
everywhere
knife.
and a long cleaver stuck
know.
into it. And the not so subtle implication here is that this obviously isn't livestock blood. And speaking of blood,
Yeah.
there is literally blood, bloody handprints, and so much gore in general everywhere on this map. Any room you go in is guaranteed to be drenched in it. On a later round, you'll encounter what are known as Verruckt sprinters, which are the fastest zombies ever. They alone are enough to put anyone on edge with how fast they actually move and the way they do so, and are definitely not suited for a map.
Well, this is the other thing. They didn't mocap this in the studio. Motion capture wasn't a thing during this point when this game came out in 2008. And so it makes me wonder, like, how did they get those animations? Like, did they actually just do them by hand? It's freaky looking at them, too, because they don't look normal. And I think that's what adds to, like, the freakiness aspect.
Like Verruckt, which really adds to the horror there. They run way too fast for the tight, narrow hallways of the asylum,
right?
making encounters with these trigger that fight or flight reaction. The last pretty scary thing in Verruckt are the mannequins on the map. I hate mannequins. They just trigger that uncanny
know.
valley response in my brain. And for those that don't know, the uncanny
They're definitely worse on this map than in Kino.
Valley
That's
is
for
where
sure.
humans just seem to get uncomfortable when something looks human but is slightly off, with mannequins being the best example of this. Here are a few examples of the Uncanny Valley. Just
bro. The Attack on Titan as Mark Zuckerberg.
judge for yourself. Some people are more affected by this than others, but I
That's so
hate it
funny.
personally, and I think no matter who you are, it can throw you off guard a little. But yeah, I still hate mannequins. But
Yeah,
overall, Verruckt just has a very, one, scary setting as a whole. I mean, an abandoned asylum that turned into a Group 935 Nazi experimentation facility. Like, that's just pretty creepy on its own. And the place just looks so run down. It looks like one of those places you would see on YouTube of like people exploring abandoned buildings.
I
They did a
know, that's
really good
such
job
a
in nailing.
great point. It literally does look like that. And it's weird because this map came out before that was even a trend. So it just reinforces how actually horrifying this was. And like again, a lot of the World at War maps were campaign assets, and so they took campaign assets and still made it fit into zombies. You gotta give them respect for that, man.
That aesthetic, and I love that outside is just nothing but trees and like some fog, and with
Yeah,
the
the
map being so
outside,
claustrophobic
it's
and
funny because the outside actually looks calming and nice and peaceful, but you can't ever get out there. You're stuck in the sanatorium, bro.
not very breathable, all of the rubble and debris in the way makes you feel even more closed in,
I
giving you
know.
a very minuscule glimpse of the pain that these victims of this facility once felt. Verruckt forces you to be right in the middle of where there was once a lot of pain and suffering, whilst Nacht specializes in that slow burn type of horror where it will slowly make you feel more paranoid as you're playing, building up to the inevitability of not being able to push back this horde. Verruckt throws you straight into it, right in the middle of the horror, and pulls no punches. In pretty much every room there is something that looks off.
I also love the quotes at the starting room. It says power will reunite you. And it's funny, while that's true, it never says anything about like how to escape. Like you accept your fate as soon as you spawn in the game.
Give you a bad feeling or will just downright freak you out. And whilst you're exploring this map already in a very uncomfortable state, it will constantly remind you of how horrible this place must have been. And still is. I don't think there's going to be a map scarier than Verruckt, not for a very long time.
I don't think there ever will be, just because of the way that the world is nowadays, and also just because of the fact that Verruckt is just designed to be absolutely terrifying to the core.
Or ever. I could
I don't
talk
think
about
so.
this one all
Verruckt will be
day.
the
It
scariest
really is
zombies
unique.
map
But
of
let's
all
move
time.
on to our
Yep.
next map.
Yep. And just all the lore they added makes it
Shi
feel
No
that much more
Numa.
immersive.
Not only is it the first time we see our OG4 characters, but it's the first time we see Hellhounds.
It's the first time we're outside, bro. Like, literally. It's the first time you ever step foot outside a building.
We will get to those
Hellhounds,
later,
man.
but before we do, let's discuss the setting of Shi No Numa.
Shino's-
This map
Shino's
is set in
setting's
a
still very
swamp
scary, man.
somewhere in Japan and has a very dense and foggy atmosphere, with its usual World at War desaturated colours, making every map creepy as well. And also,
100%.
in usual World at War fashion, at this point, makes you feel as though there is nothing you can do to escape. You are completely...
It's interesting because it literally takes nature and makes it scary. Like, you see how these leaves have so much foliage, like you can't see what's behind there. So that's what adds to the aspect of horror in Shi No Numa. Like, this is probably the only outdoor zombies map that has ever attempted to be scary.
Lost
you know?
and engulfed
And it does
in
a really
this
good
swamp
job.
of death, as the Japanese translates to. And there are hellish
And it's funny because it's like they added this map in Vanguard and they just lost that aspect of horror entirely.
creatures
Like, it's
that
just
are
not
coming
there.
for you. The map has a really good and chilling ambience of wildlife, which can hammer home the feeling of you being inside of this top secret lab deep in the swamp. Now, the real spooks start when, if you stop to listen, you can hear occasionally these whispers just at random, and they sound
know, bro.
terrifying,
Yeah.
which you may not even catch on
And
an
then the phone call Easter egg where you pick it up and it's just this guy's like, hello. The whispering, bro. Yeah, you don't get a lot of that nowadays, man. It's a lot of just like forced lore trying to tell you things, but it never feels like I'm actively trying to listen in on somebody else. You know?
normal first playthrough.
I know, bro. Like, who's talking to me in the freaking grass of Japan in Shi No Numa? Is this in Japan? I don't even know.
This is
Tunguska,
enough to just throw a
whoever
player
that
off
is.
guard, and especially one with a headset that's playing
Oh,
this.
I
And I love
know.
that they have leaned into that supernatural aspect. Shi No Numa clearly takes heavy inspiration from the Tunguska event that took place. To
Yeah.
summarize, on June the 30th, 1908, near the Tunguska River, there was and I'm gonna shorten it to, a meteor that explodes. A part of it crashed down in the forest nearby,
And
causing...
this is when they tried to actually do lore. And again, it goes in with real life. And what's crazy is that you can actually see the meteorite outside of the map. Like, Shi No Numa does such a good job in just subtle storytelling, keeping it brief, but also keeping it interesting.
Lots of trees and wildlife to be completely destroyed in the area, and many people thought that this was something supernatural. And to be honest, I don't blame them. In Zombies, it is heavily implied that the meteor from the Tunguska event is what contains element 115, and the real life event of the Tunguska event played out a little differently in Zombies. So what makes this so creepy? And if you can't tell, then we shall dig a little bit deeper. In Shi No Numa, you can see the meteor containing element 115.
I love the way it looks originally in World at War rather than the BO3 Chronicles remaster too, because it just looks so out of place. It doesn't look like something that an apoth can spit out of its mouth. No, it looks like it actually is out of place and could be something that you could find IRL.
Which, by the way, is what made the zombies in the first place.
Yeah.
When you look at the meteor in Shi No Numa, it looks so ominous, just
I know.
sat there. I don't know how to explain this one, but just the way it is shrouded in the creepy swamp, the foliage, just gives a really uneasy feeling, especially knowing that it all led to the horrors which we've seen on all of the other maps.
Yeah.
Shi No Numa features a, at the time, new zombie type called the Hellhounds, as I mentioned earlier, mutant zombie dogs which will...
I still think in this map, they are the scariest they have ever been, just because of the fact that they're strong, they're fast, and the sounds they make are the worst out of all the games. Like, it freaks you out whenever you see one. And on solo, on World at War, you can only ever have 2 dogs that spawn in, and even with only 2 dogs, they are freaky.
Try to
AF,
tear
bro.
you to shreds. And in World at War, not only do
Look
they
at
look
them,
very
bro.
haunting, but they come at you with such a fast and sporadic
I
way,
know.
which gets that adrenaline pumping through you.
And look, like, sometimes they don't go directly for you. They try and, like, cut you off. And that's what makes them so effective on this game, bro.
Body. Because they hit you...
They are scary to, like, infinite rounds. Even on round 1,000, when I got to this on Shi No Numa, still, the dogs are horrifying, bro.
very fast, and they even just leap straight at you. And in World at War Zombies, you are about as fragile as some fine china sat on a shelf that could fall off at any minute. You get killed so easily.
You only have Jug and Speed Cola and no Quick Revive. And Quick Revive doesn't work like it does in the new games where it revives you. It just does nothing on solo.
2 hits
So
and you're
heck
gone,
no, bro.
and 3 from a dog. But with how fast they hit and how overly aggressive they are, if you don't have a good gun or jug at the beginning of this round, then it's GG. Big F for all the times we have died from those guys. When the rounds start, I always found the fog concerning, because on Shi No Numa, I don't know what it is, but it works so well to take what is already a scary map where you can't see much at all due to all of that foliage and fog being in the way.
See, it's interesting because nobody ever complains about the fog in this game because it adds to the ambience. Whereas, like, people complain about the fog on, like, Call of the Dead or maps like Transit, and that's because it doesn't add to the ambience. It just makes those maps, like, slightly more annoying to play. And it's, like, wild how the game in 2008, World at War, the very first Zombies game, perfected that, and then games later on couldn't even achieve that same effect.
And then adding
that's
even
so
more fog
unreal.
when you really need to see the Hellhounds. It's a nice touch, and how can we forget about the classic?
I know, and the original Spawn sound effect, man. It freaks you out, bro. Like, just, and I love how when they spawn in as well, look how dark the map gets, and all you see are these bright eyes from the Hellhounds. Like, heck no, bro. Yeah.
Oh damn,
Yeah.
the zombies in Shi No Numa are slightly different. And I've got to say this, I used to hate the way
And
that
the animations they added specifically on Shi No Numa, the zombies just move in this really bizarre way. Like, some of their feet will twitch and their arms and hands, and it makes you, like, kind of, like, look at them like, oh.
They would
What the
come at
heck?
you. They would
Yeah.
walk and do that
I know.
horrible
Look at him.
shamble with even more
Oh,
dislocated
I don't
and
like that.
contorted
I don't like
bones. And
that.
it was just one of those smaller things that just gets to you. But let's go back to when you even spawn in on the map. Before seeing any zombies at all, you will see a hanging man just right in front of you. Now, the OGs will know that this is the mad lad Peter McCain.
And it's interesting because it gives you the answer to who turned on the power in the last map. It's unfortunately this man.
And a subtle clue to this is that he has his arm missing, and on Verruct's power switch, there's a arm that has been cut off. He's in full view when you spawn, and seeing how lifeless his body is makes for a pretty scary time.
Yeah, and then he has this glitch with a grenade where he can fall down. Yeah, and then down you. Yeah, it's so weird. It's like such a weird glitch. It makes you wonder, like, did they intentionally add that? They probably did.
Anyway, let's get back to the horror, shall we? The actual Rising Sun
But that was a
facility
real
itself
horror, bro.
is withered and decaying, and is the type of scenery where you feel as though you're going to be seeing something in the background. It's really
I
odd.
know,
There's
man.
scalpels and blood scattered everywhere, and the barriers are made in a way...
Like I said, that is due to the foliage. Like, they used the foliage and the fog really well in this map. Like, I can't even say that they did the same thing with Shangri-La, because in Shangri-La, they just tried to make the map really beautiful. That was pretty much it.
Where they're round corners and they're always out of sight inside the place. And this applies to outside as well. Outside the barriers, there is nothing but more foliage, which you see zombies slowly emerge from. Similar to Nacht with its fog. Shi No Numa takes full advantage of this by making the spawns...
Yeah, and look like how it covers up each of the bridges, so you can't even see
pretty
who's
much
walking
unpredictable.
across.
You can walk out a door and zombies could start rising up from the ground right next
That's
to
the
you,
other
or
thing,
round the
right?
corner next to a bush that you just can't quite see past. And whenever I would play this map, I always am vigilant of the fact that there could be a zombie lurking anywhere at any time.
And then the water is so slow. There also used to be a glitch back in Black Ops 1 where you could like go underneath the map and swim underneath the map. That glitch was amazing. Honestly, that added to my experience of this map so much more. And that was not even intentional. Like, you could be able to swim underneath the entire map. It was so freaking sick.
They even put zombie
loved it.
spawns in the water you can trudge through,
Yeah.
and the water already slows you down, so this is pretty suspenseful. And I think that that's what Shi No Numa shines with, suspense. Feeling like you're always being watched and that something bad is about to happen. I love when games don't even know all of the information that you would want to know, like how this map doesn't even know where you are, it's just somewhere in Japan. It really takes off
that's
that...
what I was saying. I was like, I don't even know where it is. I was just thinking Japan somewhere, but it's like, you look at this map and you're like, is this really Japan? It kind of looks more of like Cape Kona America, like in the middle. I love my country in that type of America, you know?
Safety blanket that a lot of games have nowadays, where it just tells you way more information than you need to know. How zombies can be anywhere at any time and you might not be able to see far enough. So watch your back or die in the dense swamp of the dead, where no one can hear your screams or be able to help, all in the middle of nowhere.
Just an amazing ambience. Shi No Numa honestly has such a good
Reese,
ambience.
one of the best zombies maps to ever...
This map really, like, you could say it adds to the previous story, but also sets up an entire new story. It sets up all of Ultimus. You have the Derice facility, 115. Like, the amount of stuff Derice sets up is insane, but it does start going away just from like the simplistic horror experiences from the older maps.
Exist, don't at me on that, and I will say this straight off the bat. This map isn't as scary as the other
It
three,
really
or at
isn't.
least
Yeah,
not in
that's what I'm saying. Like, it isn't as scary, but it adds to its own thing by creating its own storyline, really.
aesthetics. Derice displays that chilling feeling in a different way. History. Derice has a chilling aura.
History and lore. Like, there's a side Easter egg on this where you just see hanging legs outside the map, and so you realize, like, oh, somebody was a 115 doctor, and he commit the deed, unfortunately, but like that is what is scary about this map. It's like you can see these tragedies that happened because of the giant, because of the
We're
facility.
shrouded by a dark history that happened at this Group 935 facility. But first, let's discuss the visuals and all of
And
that.
then like all the lore tie-ins here with BO1 showing off Call of the Dead and whatnot, and like they did a phenomenal job with this. Plus, this is one of the best layouts ever in COD Zombies. So this map really took it in a different direction from going away from horror. But a lot of people don't even care because the direction they brought us in was phenomenal. You know,
Stuff. This facility is your standard Nazi scientist type of sci-fi factory, not over the
Yeah.
top by any means, making it very much believable. And it gives it this
Exactly.
really gritty feeling, especially knowing it's overrun with zombies. If this really is
like it's weird to say that realism used to be a big aspect in COD Zombies, which nowadays is not a thing. Like zombies is pretty much just whatever Warzone tells it to be at this point.
where it started, something bad happened here. What was it? There are some really weird oddities around this map which you may not notice straight away, such as the shadow of Samantha's teddy bear ominously
I know,
cast
right?
onto
It's
the
the
wall
lore that
outside
makes
one
it
of the
scary.
barriers at spawn, and it's just out of sight, which makes you feel as though someone or something is watching you. Same with the writing on the walls from Samantha, which seems to be much more apparent and meaningful.
I like the writing better in the older games. Like it's just more creative and it also just looks more scary. Whereas it's like when you pick up an audio log in Cold War, it's not really scary. You're just listening to some dude yap for like the next 2 minutes. And you're like, okay.
As though it's trying to tell you something, compared to any other World at War
Like,
map.
this is
A
much
few
more
examples
engaging.
of this being some graffiti that says "Return through ether." Another
Right.
one says "Teddy is a liar" with some weird symbols that seem to spell out
And honestly, what's crazy about these quotes is that there are people still to this day trying to solve ciphers and quotes from these maps that are like still prevalent even today. Like return through the ether. Samantha literally is returning through the ether in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies as we speak. There's things like that I mean, you just can't see in other games with the predictive programming that they put in World at War, man. It's
help.
crazy.
And then there's some in the spawn that says "Embrace the Trinity and true power will be yours." There is
Yeah.
also a bloodied paw print of a hellhound just near the stairs at the catwalk, and you may not see
Which is funny. You look at that paw print and you're like, would the Hellhounds make that paw print? You're like, no way, bruh.
it straight away,
no
but
way.
when you notice it, it's creepy as hell. Like
Yeah.
when I was younger and I was first playing the Riese, seeing that bloodied paw print really tucked away, it was definitely enough to send a shiver down my spine. It
Yeah,
was
it's
really one of
freaky.
those when you see it type of things, and there was a lot of those in Zombies.
I think that's what makes zombies so effective with horror is that it's not actually a horror game at its core, but when you see those horror aspects off the side, if the map is created well enough, it gives you that sense of like, oh, what the heck? Like that's freaky,
Oh, and how can we
you know?
forget the Easter egg, the hidden stuff outside the
Exactly.
maps back in World
Yeah.
at War? Just spooked me when I was younger, with the Easter egg not being able to be accessed until you shoot this little control.
Like you could say this map changed zombies from being horror survival into more of like an RPG where you start progressing your character to learn a story and become more powerful.
Control panel outside the map, and then you get to play a unnerving game of hide and seek with the creepy ghost girl Samantha.
Yeah. And like this Easter egg, while small, is effective in sort of blending those two game genres from horror survival into more of like a progression RPG, you know? Like she's bringing you on her own quests type of deal. And that's basically what zombies evolved into.
Samantha speaking the way she does definitely adds to the freaky factor there. Around the map, you can see jars of brains all around the place and weird diagrams of zombies, with blood all around them, showing just how many horrible experiments happened there. This was the place where the wonder weapons were made, and one of them is the monkey bomb, a symbol monkey with dynamite strapped to its back that would attract zombies to it by playing a small jingle when it's wound up and thrown, making a quip,
Like,
and
that's what I mean. Like, this is where the personality for zombies started to kick in, and it's like true. I don't think zombies would have survived this long if it just kept up that like horror survival aspect from the first three World at War maps. Like, it needed this breakout map. It needed Derice, right?
And then exploding.
It
Some
needed
quotes
Pack
from the Monkey
Punch,
Bomb as you
know?
would wind it up would say, "Hi, I'm Monkey, wanna play?" Oh my god, I hope no one heard me say that. That probably sounds really weird out of context.
I
And
know,
you're
bro.
not Sam. It sounds really unsettling, and the Monkey Bomb definitely looks it too.
There's a quote from a Treyarch developer that said, "You're not Sam" literally started the Samantha Max's storyline. Like, that's what allowed it to happen in Derice. And so this map is the first map, really, off the reaction of Treyarch in terms of the community. Like, the community gave us a bunch of the lore. They wanted to learn about it. And so that's what really propelled Zombies, is how integrated the COD community was into Zombies at the time. It was really something else, man.
Symbol monkeys in like the 40s just looked really terrifying. But to be honest though, is there anyone in the world that isn't scared of a symbol monkey? And as you're playing
yeah,
the
they're, like,
map
weird.
and you're hearing all of this stuff about Samantha, you must be thinking, who is Samantha? Why is she so important? Well, now let us
Exactly,
move
right?
on to the best part of Derice, why its horror is pretty effective, and that is the dark history that I mentioned earlier of what happened at the Derice.
And again, they base it off of real life stuff, but also they make it into a interesting narrative. And that's why I think most people back in the BO1 days still knew what was going on in terms of the storyline, because it was quite linear and pretty easy to understand. And I think that's what made it so effective.
Facility that creates a really scary aura in the map once this is all pieced together. The first thing I am going to refer to are the radios. They are scattered around the map in hidden places and follow Maxis and Richtofen conducting their twisted experiments with the zombies, as well as trying out some teleportation, because why not? And going off of the radios here, since it's just audio, some of these are scary sounding, especially since we the players know how freaky the zombies are, and knowing how wrong everything goes makes listening to them much more impactful. Maxis was the father of Samantha, and whilst all of this experimentation was going on, Samantha wasn't really given much affection or attention from her father, and to make up for that, Maxis got her a dog called Fluffy.
Now, you must be very diligent with her, Samantha. Owning a dog is a great responsibility.
Oh, I love her.
You must feed her every day. And
Oh yeah, bring it,
very careful
motherfuckers!
when you
That was the funniest part. You hear quotes and your guy's just yelling how he got a max ammo. You know, I love that.
know she's going to have puppies.
Really? Can I keep the puppies too, Father?
We'll see, Samantha. One step at a time.
Richtofen and
Man, yeah,
Maxis
the quotes
decided
back
to
then were so
experiment
much more
on Fluffy,
engaging.
and this ended up turning her into the first ever Hellhound. And considering that she was pregnant, as the radio said, that's where the rest of them came from. This little bit of history makes that bloody paw print mark on the wall 10 times creepier, and the map is
100%.
full of stuff like this.
Yep.
At the end of Derice, Richtofen was corrupted by 115 and went pretty crazy, locking Samantha and her father Maxis in the teleporter, sending them to Moon.
Initiating test number 6.
Yeah, this map
Objective.
literally launched the entirety of Black Ops 1 storyline. Like, it did such a great job. Derice, like, that's the greatest part about an ending zombies map on a game, is that if it does a good job, it sets up the entirety of the next game. Like Derice with Black Ops 1, Origins with Black Ops 3, bro. Like, obvious.
Is within test chamber. Activate power. Damn it, Edward! Did you set up the device correctly?
Yes, Doctor. As per your specifications.
If you had done it to my specifications, then it would have worked, wouldn't it? As usual, your incompetence has...
What? Do you hear that, Doctor?
Literally, like, they got the dog coming out of the teleporter in the gameplay perfectly with that, bro.
Full. Test number 6 is a failure, but the experiment has caused some kind of electrical force energized within the chamber. Well, open the door!
Doctor, I don't think...
Open the door! Now!
Yeah, Maxis was pissed in Derice, bro. That's the one issue about Derice now, is that we get so little Maxis later on in the games, and he gets such a bad death that, like, it kind of sullies what they were setting up all the way years back then in Derice, man. Maxis is just such a bad character to me.
Never to come in here. Edward, get her out of here.
Yes, Doctor.
What's wrong with her? Daddy, what did you do?
Yep. Samantha
back here!
pissed.
Samantha! Stop her! Easy. Come here, Samantha. Good girl, Flossie. Gently, Samantha. That's not Flossie anymore.
How did they record this, man?
Let's get out of here.
You know?
Edward, what are you doing? Open the door! Edward, open this door now!
Like, this is what I mean. They were effective at storytelling just through an audio log, man. That's crazy feat back in 2008.
Stay by me, Samantha.
Goodbye, Dr. Maxis.
Yeah. Classic, iconic line, man.
This is where Samantha then went on to get trapped in the MPD and Maxis was killed. Samantha went on to take control of the zombies and Maxis said to her, kill them all. And that's why on Riese, she's against you. Having all of this context really makes playing this map unnerving and has that chilling aura I mentioned earlier, like you are in a place you shouldn't be. A ghost of what was once a horrible, evil place where people...
Like, you can tell it worked because we're still talking about Samantha Maxis over 10 years later, almost 15 years later, in 2023. Like,
suffered. To add salt to the wound, if you go near the
crazy.
furnace room, you can hear Samantha crying, which is not only eerie to listen to, but upsetting as well considering how much she suffered in this place. Samantha used to have lots of cuddly toys, implied by the teddy bear, so when the monkey bomb was made, it's safe to say that Richtofen probably used a symbol monkey of hers, which just makes them tainted. That is how this map feels, knowing how...
True, yeah, the monkey bomb came from a great place. It was probably not even a bomb before.
Abandoned,
you know?
and overrun with the undead it is, with fragments of history behind, via the radios and other context clues. Riese really gets that grizzled, gritty, and haunted feeling from a dark past. It used to freak me out looking up the story and listening to the radios of this map, piecing it all together whilst feeling the haunted feeling of being in a place like this where such inhumane experimentation happened. The dark past of the Nazi experimentation is constantly looming over you as you play. That thick aura is in the air on this map, and even the innocent child Samantha was tainted. This twisted history of the map, along with the visuals, make Riese's horror a crushing feeling.
It's a great horror aspect, and again, would they be able to do this in 2023? I don't think so with the way things are nowadays,
Of
man.
true darkness.
It really just...
In conclusion, World at War Zombies captured a certain kind of horror that I don't think we're ever gonna see again in zombies.
Ever.
And the closest we got to this level of horror was World War II Zombies, but that...
Which just didn't do the same level of, like, horror in terms of, like, it being realistic and it being, like, oh my gosh, this could have potentially happened. You know, that is just... so much more scary than anything else.
Doesn't
That's
really
a psychological
shine a torch
horror.
to what we have here. You can definitely tell that World at War was going for the more horror side of zombies and for the more scarier
100%.
parts of what that could entail, whilst being connected together with its own consistent theme, of course, of hopelessness and terror, all by the hands of the Nazis, and now the Nazi zombies. And each map brings their own different types of scares to the table, with Nacht der Untoten showcasing the slow inevitability of the unknown, Verruckt throwing you head first into a truly twisted place, forcing your eyes and ears to see so much suffering, and using all of its ace cards to get under your skin. Shi No Numa takes heavy advantage of suspense, and Riese is a place that is clouded by its own history. It all comes together to make each map you play feel like a little rabbit hole you're diving into, and then eventually one
I just realized, why does the moon on Nacht look like an egg, bro?
huge rabbit
What
hole,
is up
which
with
is
that?
the World at War zombie story. And I remember all this stuff as a kid used to really creep me out, and I would be lying if I said it didn't creep me out anymore. Maybe not as much, sure. It's crazy looking back at World at War and how different the atmosphere and feel is compared to zombies today. But well done, Treyarch. You scared the shit out of me and many other people. But World at War delivers a really
Literally.
solid horror experience, one which provides some pretty good scares to this very day, and one which I don't think is going to be topped ever. And with all
I don't think so. Ladies and gentlemen, check out Exceptional Gamer. Man is an absolute legend, and I'll see y'all, ladies and gentlemen, in that next one, baby.